Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Eiffel Tower. This iconic French landmark gets its name from Gustave Eiffel, the architect behind it. Don't know why I shouted his surname. He built in a private apartment at the top of the tower to entertain guests such as Thomas Edison. Over the years, many people offered Gustave a lot of money to rent the space, but he always refused. These days though, the apartment is open to the public to visit. When you get up there, you will find it decked out in an authentic 19th century interior with wax models of Gustave and friends. Little bit creepy, if I'm honest, those pictures.
In our 9th spot, we have Stonehenge. Located in Wiltshire, England, the Stonehenge is one of UK's most famous landmarks. It consists of a bunch of standing stones in a ring, with some stones placed on top of each other. It's theorized that it took builders 1,500 years to build it. Now, what makes this so mysterious is the fact that we don't know why it was built in the first place. Many scholars agree that Stonehenge was once a burial ground, but what else? They think maybe it was a place of worship, or maybe it was just like a cool project. They're like, yo, can we just like stack the stones? It'll look sick, I promise. We don't know. Also, we don't know how they managed to build it in the first place without access to modern technology. Those stones weigh around 25 tons. How did they get them there? And then up in that position, and then rocks on top of that? It's just a secret we may never know.
Next up at number 8 now, we have Club 33. Disneyland in California is a kid's paradise, and also pretty fun for big kids too, I guess. Alright, it's fun for everyone, but it's aimed at kids. Because of this, you won't find any places there really selling alcoholic drinks, except for Club 33. It lies behind an unmarked door in New Orleans Square. It's an exclusive, members-only club that charges people $25,000 to join, and then comes with an annual fee of $12,000. It does look very nice from the pictures, but I'll be honest, I'm probably going to stick to Splash Mountain. At number 7 now, we have the Cave of Evil Spirits. Unlike the ones we've talked about so far on this list, this is a natural room, otherwise known as a cave. Obviously. It can be found at Niagara Falls, tucked away down the road. It's not known to many members of the public. I've been to Niagara Falls 3 times now and had no idea of its existence. However, the Seneca tribe of Native Americans knew it all too well. They believed it contained the trapped souls of evil spirits, hence its name. Apparently, warriors who enter the cave without fear were deemed ready for battle. Would you guys want to step inside? Moving on to number 6 now, we have the Statue of Liberty's torch. Today, visitors can climb up inside this famous New York monument and peer out of the top of her crown. What a lot of people don't realise though is that you used to be able to go even higher, all the way to the inside of the torch. That all changed during World War I though. German secret agents blew up a munitions depot near Ellis Island, damaging the statue enough that the public were no longer allowed to climb up to the torch. The arm was repaired in 1984 though, which means that although you're not allowed in it, the secret torch room still remains. At number 5 now, we have Trafalgar Square. After Big Ben and Buckingham Palace, Trafalgar Square might be one of London's most popular tourist spots. There's the big lions, there's the fountains, there's Nelson's Column, but hardly anyone notices this, a tiny room disguised as a lamppost. It's actually a fully functioning police station. The Lilliputian police station was built in the 1930s to serve as a watch post for the police in that area. The whole idea was that any police officer who was caught up in a riot or a protest could just duck in there for a bit for cover. It's so small that it only fits a single police officer, or I guess 2 if the police officers are, you know, comfortable with each other. Next up at number 4 now, we have Radio City Hall. If any of you guys are from New York, you may have heard of Radio City Music Hall. After opening in 1932, it went on to become known as the showplace of the nation. In recent years, it's hosted political conventions, boxing matches, and even the NFL draft. During its construction, the architects built a secret apartment for Samuel Rothafel, one of the designers. After he died in 1936, the apartment was left unused and pretty much forgotten. Because of this though, it's remained perfectly pristine inside, just as it was left. Everything there looks just like it did during the Art Deco era that it was constructed in. Some people find it cool, others find it creepy. What do you guys think? Moving on to number 3 now, we have the Lucky 7 Lounge. At the Pixar Studios, an animator called Andrew Gordon once stumbled across a human-sized hatch in the back wall of his new office there. The tunnel led to a room used for access to air vents. He and his colleagues started to decorate the secret room and even installed a camera in the corridor to see who was coming. Pixar owner Steve Jobs used to visit this space, as well as the likes of Tim Allen and Randy Newman. Some of their names even remain on the wall to this day. At number 2 now, we have the Colosseum. More than 4 million people visit Rome's Colosseum every single year, the 2,000-year-old amphitheatre used by the Romans to stage everything from animal fights to gladiator battles. Not many people are aware though of the labyrinth of secret rooms and tunnels underneath the Colosseum. Today, many of them are hidden from public view, but back in the Roman era, they used to house animals such as elephants, leopards and panthers. They would then be pulled up to the main arena using a pulley system. Alright, back to New York now for our number 1, and we have the Empire State Building. I've been up this building twice as a teenager. It was amazing. You get to see New York from the 102nd floor, which is the observation deck. What I didn't know at the time though was that this wasn't the only observation deck. There is actually another, less known but higher up one on the 103rd floor. It's closed to the public but apparently not celebrities. Taylor Swift once posted pictures of herself up there. It's thought that this room was originally meant for passengers to climb onto airships that would dock on the buildings. Airships stopped being a thing though after the Hindenburg disaster, but this hidden high up room still remains.
Kicking off the list at number 10, the Eiffel Tower apartment. I live on the 11th floor in a building, and let me tell you, it's way too high up. I'm not a fan of heights at all. I can't do them. My legs get all shaky. I start going, ooh, maybe it's because I'm tall already. I don't know. Not a fan. But this first one here gave me a hard time researching. Above the Eiffel Tower, above the main observation deck when it was completed back in 1889, Gustave Eiffel, like Mr. Eiffel, the dude who made the blueprints, included for himself a sweet little condo at the very, very top. This 100 square meter room sounds spacey at first, but in reality it's full of gear and the elevator shaft. It was like Harry Potter's closet in comparison to the rest of the house. You know what I mean? Not too lovely. This room did have a kitchen, a small one. It also had a bathroom, thank God, and a living room. God forbid you open a window though. Papers must have been all over the place. Gustave's hair must have been so messy all the time. But pretty interesting nonetheless. Number 9, the Washington Monument. This is one of those things again where I wish I get to check out myself, but again, the fear of heights, there's no way I could physically do this. You can go inside the Washington Monument, that's no surprise, we all know this at this point. But did you know there's a secret hiding spot at the very, very top? A secret hatch. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter has to save his classmates. They're stuck in the elevator shaft in the monument. In order to reach them before they fall, he has to kick through the window at the very top of the monument. It's a pretty intense scene. He almost doesn't make it. It takes him like 3 super Spidey kicks just to get in. Turns out he could have just crawled 4 feet a little higher to the very top of the monument and opened this secret hatch. Could have called it a day without using web fluid. Easy peasy. Yeah, you don't need Spider-Man to clean and maintain the monument. Just people who aren't afraid of heights, apparently. Number 8, Trafalgar Square. Come on down to Trafalgar Square. We got tiny police stations. Little Brits. Back in 1926, strikes and protests were every other week. It's almost like, increasing labor and 13% wage cut is a bad thing. Odd, who knew? So workers in every industry at this point all went on strike. They stopped working in London for 9 days, and most of these protests would happen in London's Trafalgar Square. So in order to keep an eye on things without, looking like you're keeping an eye on things in 1926, the classic walking around, smacking a bat in your hands, blowing smoke in kids' faces, the they do in Peaky Blinders. That's, you can't do that. So instead, the police built a tiny secret covert police station in one of those large light posts. Imagine if your dog started peeing on one of these posts and then all of a sudden 15 police officers just ran out. I'd be confused for the rest of my life. Number 7, the Brooklyn Bridge wine cellar. I'm not a wine guy by any means, but I respect sommeliers. Like, they have books of knowledge about wine just stored in their cool heads at all times. And they look cool while they're doing their job. They know everything about grapes and they look cool. Didn't know that person could exist. What a dream job. Wine is a lifestyle to many. So if you live in New York City and you're a big fan of Merlot, listen up. The Brooklyn Bridge connects Manhattan and Brooklyn. It was built back in 1883, and at the time, it was the longest bridge in the world until 1903. Chief Bridge Engineer John A. Roebling, as well as his son, Washington Roebling, worked into the building plans in order to help the city financially after, just spending $15 million on a bridge. They included 2 wine cellars, one on each shore, as well as other chambers that could be rented out. The plan worked, and over the following 40 years, wine was stored in the dark, cool granite cellars. Probably so many spiders down there. That's all I think of when I see old just spiders. I see a barn now on TV, I'm like, ugh. It's too many spiders, can't do it. Number 6, Mount Rushmore. When sculptor Gutzon Borglum carefully planned out his designs for Mount Rushmore, the iconic American landmark in South Dakota, he included a hidden room. The room's purpose was ideally to be a time capsule in a titanium vault full of records telling the story of Mount Rushmore's construction, so it doesn't get lost thousands of years down the line in the future. Although I think, I don't know, carving presidents' faces into the sacred land of natives was enough, but sure, vaults work just as well. The Hall of Records was meant to be this, well, like I said, massive hall with an 800-foot staircase, bronze walls, a massive bronze eagle, swear to God, just a massive eagle. Sure, just because. He wanted future generations to look at this place in awe as we do with Stonehenge. So work began July 1938, but after a year, the project was put on pause to, maybe focus on the presidents and then carving them first before we work on the secret room, national treasure looking ass. Borglum passed in 1941, so the 70-foot cave that was completed at this point was now the vault. They had to be done, that's it. Not as big or flashy as he wanted, but still, there is now a titanium vault behind the 1,200-pound slab of granite. Number 5, Supreme Court basketball court. A court in a court. This is now Inception. Didn't know that. This is the Supreme Court I'm talking about, mainly referred to as the highest court in the land. Back in the 40s, this was the storage room initially for the courthouse, but over time it turned into a workout room, being so large and all. I wouldn't even call that a storage room in the first place, really. But courthouse employees would go in there often and work out, and eventually some genius threw up a couple of backboards. So yes, there's now a basketball court above the Supreme Court. That is insane to me. Imagine hearing players' shoes squeaking around during a trial. You're like, Your Honor, I believe somebody just got juked. Number 4. Grand Central Station tennis court. Okay, it's kind of hard to mention the Supreme Court without talking about the tennis courts at Grand Central. In the early 1800s, trade and banking fueled the city, specifically via railroad. Both freight and passenger, this was booming. So come 1871, Grand Central opens up, but the Vanderbilt Tennis Club, that opened up much later in 1965. It wasn't even tennis either. This room had also been a recording studio at one point in history. It had also been an art gallery. It hosted breakdancing, like a whole breakdancing tournament, boxing, double Dutch tournaments, pretty much everything you want to see, they've hosted here at one point. So if you ever see a sweaty dude walk out of a janitor's closet with a bunch of tennis balls, go poke around a bit. Go poke around a bit. Number 3. Drum Castle. Ancient chambers. Okay, let's do this. Now we're talking about some real ancient stuff. That stuff was just fun. I wanted to throw in the list. But now this is definitely ancient. Back in 2013, while a conservation team was working on Scotland's oldest castle, Drum Castle, they found a previously undiscovered part of the castle, which was like this small hidden chamber. It was left untouched for hundreds of years. Dr. Jonathan Clark from FAS Heritage, part of the archaeological team, recalls window openings on the first floor level, but once inside the castle, wherever these rooms were, they were hidden behind bookshelves. They couldn't get in. So they unblocked the windows from the outside, took a peek in, and then found this. They found a hidden medieval chamber in great condition. Even had a little toilet in there too. To quote Dr. Clark himself from The Scotsman, great name for a website also, gotta add that in. He says, "This adds greatly to our knowledge of how the interior of the Tower of Drum was used in the medieval period. In due course, it should contribute a greater knowledge of how 14th century towers were used in their heyday." And no, in case you were wondering, nobody had breakdance battles in this one. I already looked into that. Number 2, Paris Catacombs. Originally, the tunnels under Paris Catacombs were built for stone mines, but near the end of the 18th century, it turned into something a little haunting, I'd say. Cemeteries were starting to fill up. Literally, they were filling up at this point in time. Humans didn't figure out how to be clean and where to store bodies and all that jazz. So bodies would just be laying at the side of the road, and they would literally pile up. So the solution was to, put them out of sight, out of mind, and to now use these catacombs. These tunnels have been there for centuries, so you might as well put them to good use. And by good use, I mean let's pile a bunch of skeletons on top of each other. But in 2004, French police discovered something not terrifying, which is lovely. They found a small movie theater hidden underneath the city in the catacombs, and a tiny restaurant as well, in case you got a little snacky. 7 years later, a leader of UX, Urban Experiences, came forward and said there were over 100 people working on this, and it was supposed to be this new underground experience. I don't know, I'm kind of torn on this one. Would you watch a movie in the Paris Catacombs? Imagine watching As Above, So Below in a theater in the Paris Catacombs. Could you do it? I don't know, I feel sick thinking about that. And finally, number 1, Niagara Falls. I'm lucky enough to be a short drive from Niagara Falls. Of course, at this point in my life, it's not too exciting to go anymore. I've done the wax museums, I've mini putt with the dinosaurs. I've seen it, I've done it. What else? Well, how about the Cave of Evil Spirits? Yeah, that ought to mix it up. You can leave your poncho behind for this excursion as well, because the Cave of Evil Spirits is near the Devil's Hole, which is far away from the actual falls. On the US side, right on the side of the river. It's this limestone cave, maybe just 42 feet deep, and it was named by early settlers to get anybody from poking around inside died, but come 1679, Lascelles, on his return to Lake Ontario, passed this cave, and his guide even discouraged him to go in, but Lascelles entered anyways, and within 2 years, death followed. It wasn't like a haunting or ghost or anything. I wouldn't call this a haunted cave per se. I think this is just what tends to happen when you walk into somebody's home unannounced in the late 1600s. Yeah, you piss a few people off.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Coral Castle. Located in Homestead, Florida, this beautiful rock garden was created by one man, and one man only. The garden is made up of more than 1,000 tons of sedimentary rock, which was sculpted into different shapes, like a crescent moon. Some were even made into chairs and tables. Legend goes that this man built the structure after being abandoned by his lover on their wedding day. He channeled his heartache into building this structure to prove to her that he could do something amazing. Here's the thing. This man was very tiny. He weighed only 100 pounds, and he had only a 4th grade education. So how did he manage to build such an intricate structure by himself? Scientists claim that even Albert Einstein couldn't have done it.
Moving on to number 9 now, we have the Hall of Records. I'm sure you'll all recognize this. It's Mount Rushmore, depicting the faces of 4 US presidents: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt. Behind Abraham Lincoln's head, you can find a little known room known as the Hall of Records. This special vault was properly installed in 1998. It contains 16 porcelain panels depicting the construction of Mount Rushmore and also why those presidents were chosen. The room is not meant to be viewed by the general public, but is intended to be a sort of time capsule for the future. There are also copies in there of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights.
Moving on at number 8, we have the pyramids. Of course the pyramids were going to be on this list, how couldn't they? They are another one of those structures that we have no clue how they built them. Seriously, how were the giant blocks moved and put into place? Not only that, but a lot of crypts in the pyramids still remain unexplored. There are said to be tons of hidden artifacts and scrolls that we just haven't found yet. That could give us more information on ancient Egypt. But what we do know, which is kind of an interesting fact, is that Egyptians might have used the Great Pyramid of Giza as a sundial, enabling them to tell time by just looking at its shadow. Coming in at number 7, we have Göbekli Tepe. Constructed over 11,000 years ago, this landmark located in southeastern Turkey was originally just thought to be the remains of an old cemetery. However, upon excavating the land, they discovered more than 200 pillars in about 20 circles. The pillars are around 20 feet tall and weigh up to 10 tons. Some of the pillars have animal shapes carved into them. But here's the thing, we haven't even excavated it all yet. It's theorized that we could be digging for another 50 years before uncovering the rest of the structure. What's weird is that this monument was built during a time when metal tools and pottery had not been developed yet. So this whole thing just remains a big mystery filled with secrets. In our 6th spot, we have the Lost City. Just off the coast of the Japanese island Yonaguni lies a city completely sunken underwater. There are complete pyramids, ruins of a castle, structures etched with faces, and rock sculptures that look like animals all underwater. It's theorized that a terrible earthquake caused the city to be engulfed by water. But to this day, we don't know the true origins of this mysterious underwater city. The monument is made up of a series of rock formations including carved steps, stone pillars, and a triangular formation now known as the Turtle because of its appearance. Now this also remains a mystery because we don't know if it was man-made or made naturally. Some scientists think that the currents and erosions carved the formations out of the ocean floor. Others claim that the straight edges and 90-degree angles make it seem like it was man-made. Who knows? But if it was man-made, what was its purpose? We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Great Sphinx of Giza. The Sphinx is a massive structure with a body of a lion and a head and face of a human. It is around 240 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 66 feet tall. Most researchers believe that the Sphinx was meant to act as a guardian for the pharaoh Khafra, whose pyramid is located beside it. It may actually be his face that is on the Sphinx. But like much of these other structures, we truly don't know. Count how many times I say that in this video. Maybe it contains some hidden secrets that we just haven't discovered yet. In our 4th spot, we have the Saxe woman, and I know what it sounds like, but that's how you pronounce it, so just, I know. Located in Peru, this structure is a series of strange stone walls made from 200-ton blocks of rock and limestone. The 3 stone walls are arranged in a zigzag pattern along the hillside. Close to the structure, a bunch of underground catacombs have been found, which were said to be like little secret passageways. Scientists originally believed that this structure was some sort of fortress, but now it's thought that it was used more symbolically. In fact, if you look at it from above, the walls seem to form the shape of a cougar head. Another mystery is how it was built. The stones fit together perfectly. In fact, not even a sheet of paper can fit in the gaps between them. How did they do this? And how did they transport the stones? Making our way down the list, number 3, we have Easter Island. The island where it's Easter all year round. I just made that up. Easter Island is a volcanic island located in Polynesia. This island is best known for its huge statues found all over the island, and there are said to be more than 900 of them on the island. Now, these statues are made from solidified volcanic ash and are said to take up to a year to make for just one. So how did they manage to build hundreds of them? We don't know. We got our theories. Coming in at number 2, we have New Grange. New Grange is said to be the oldest and most famous prehistoric site in all of Ireland. Built around 3100 BC, New Grange is a round structure made out of wood, clay, and stone. The roof is completely covered in grass. Inside the structure is a long passage that leads to a cross-shaped chamber. This is said to have been a tomb. Now, a lot of thought and detail went into building this. I mean, it's completely waterproof, still to this day it is, and the entrance of the tomb was positioned in a way so that during the winter solstice, the sun would beat in through the opening and down the passageway. Now, what we need to know is who this tomb was built for and why. Whoever it was, they had to have been pretty significant. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Georgia Guidestones. Built in 1979 by a man who went by the name R.C. Christian, this monument consists of 4 monolithic slabs made of granite standing upright. The slabs contain inscriptions in 8 different languages, discuss a 10-point plan to ensure peace on Earth. It's also weird saying things like maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. What is that supposed to mean? Really, what? Here's the thing. Since the construction of the structure, R.C. Christian has not spoken up about it. One theory is that it was created in case of a nuclear apocalypse. It would then guide people on how to rebuild society. It's so weird and so mysterious.